All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for making the time. And
No
welcome.
problem.
This is episode 3 of Unplanned with Phil Bland, and I'm with Hannah Powers and and we just we connected on LinkedIn, and I thought it'd be great to kind of get to know Hannah and find out a bit more about what you're doing. So, yeah. I guess when I was looking at your profile, I was just kind of interested about your journey, because obviously we were just talking before we went live, and that I was kind of interested to hear, like, to see that you've worked in kind of the corporate world first of all, and then made the jump into doing something entrepreneurial, and now you're obviously doing things with the book. So I guess, like, my big question was just like, what was that journey like for you, just taking the jump? Was it scary? What was the thought process that went into it?
Yeah, cool. It's a good question. So a little bit of background. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. So they started their first business in 1998. So I was 6 years old. Or their first big business. My dad had always worked for himself since he was very young. And I grew up in an entrepreneurial world, which meant that I was very exposed to lots of entrepreneurs. My parents run an online business network with nearly 600,000 members worldwide. So we used to travel and go to events and things like that. So I experienced all the great side of entrepreneurialism, but actually my parents' journey was very up and down. So I very much kind of wanted to take a more stable route. I always had very entrepreneurial tendencies. I was always that little kid that was like hustling on eBay or trying to start like a babysitting business or whatever. But I kind of wanted to dampen that down, because I actually associated entrepreneurialism with actually huge like stress. And I thought, why wouldn't I go and lots of great stuff, but also huge stress. And so I thought, no, I'm just going to do a normal thing. So I went and did a law degree. And then I went to work at a corporate consulting firm called Accenture. And I really loved being at Accenture. I think it's a really great company and great people.
Yeah, these places are like good to learn. Like it's a good kind of learning ground. You get put on like high exposure clients. It's like you get thrown in at the deep end quite often, and it's good to kind of test you. But ultimately, like, you don't own the business. You're not like fully accountable for the outcomes.
Yeah, I think for me it was, I really loved the business, and I loved the people I worked with. I loved working for Accenture. I was very proud to be an Accenture person, but I think I just wasn't necessarily the right fit, in terms of I wasn't very good at playing the corporate game. You know, I've always been highly productive, so I've never been someone that works long hours. I work short hours. I work very efficiently, but I never could get into this habit of, oh, you've got to sit at your desk until this certain time because that's what the client wants. I'd be like, but I've done my work. To my manager, I've done some of your work. Like, I'm not going to sit here. So I think I just wasn't necessarily that good at playing the game. And then I niched myself into quite a specific part of what I was doing. And it kind of made it difficult to progress my career, because I was so specific about what I wanted to do. I was working in innovation, and it was relatively new at the time. And I didn't want to go back to like normal consulting. So I sort of was a bit stuck. And then I went on holiday with my two best friends to Bali, and I'd been there before, and I saw all these people working away on their laptops on the beach and sitting in coffee shops and stuff. And I was just like, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I just said to them, I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And they were like, oh, okay, Han. I was like, yeah. So I quit my job. I quit Accenture about 8 months after that, and moved over to Bali with no plan, a laptop, $5,000, which I thought was loads of money at the time, but it's really not. And I just sort of went to immerse myself in this whole digital nomad world. I knew that Canggu, where I wanted to live, was very much a hub of the new economy, the new world of people working remotely, running online businesses. You know, I lived with 30 different people over the course of a year in my villa. We had loads of different people moving in and out. That's cool. I just learned so many different things about different businesses, different cultures. You know, I lived with so many different nationalities, so many different businesses, so many different business models. And everyone was starting businesses out there. So I didn't go out there to start a business, because I still had in my mindset of, you know, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't think that's for me. I don't want that life. But then when I got out there and I started to just see, I realized it was a no-brainer, and then I started my first business, and then it's
well, you don't have a boss telling you that you need to just sit at your desk and do work when you don't feel like you have to. I think a lot of
and to be fair, that was only one boss that I had. I don't want to tarnish the whole Accenture, because lots of people aren't like that. No, but it was just something that really stuck in my head.
I think just in general, like it's like not whether it's like any one person or whatever, but it's like you are the decision maker. You decide how much you need to work to achieve your objectives. Whereas like if you're working within an organization, you don't have full accountability or authority to decide how much or how little you need to work. So, but like going back to what you were saying about the family dynamics, that's quite funny, because I think a lot of the time you do get like you learn things from your parents when you're growing up about how work ethic, and like my dad was very corporate world, just like going out to work every day, getting promoted and that type of thing. But then again, my mum was very entrepreneurial, doing an interior design business, and I would actually go to meetings with her and help hang curtains and go and pick up the fabrics and all of that type of thing. And you see the cycle of like, that effort that you put in, and then the happiness that like the value that you create for other people. It's almost like a cyclical thing, and then your lifestyle grows as a result. It's quite it's almost like quite instructive for kids, I reckon, to have parents that are entrepreneurs, because they get to see them at work quite often.
I mean, I think for me, it was all I knew. So I don't know what it's, like to grow up with kind of, corporate parents or parents that have jobs. My parents had all the benefits of because they ran the business together. And we were very much involved in it. We used to go to their events, and we had our own little like metal badges, because we were like regulars. So if you were like a regular event goer, you got like a metal badge, but if you were new, you got like a paper one. So we had our little metal badges, and I mean, we were really young. Like my youngest brother was 4 or 5 years old, and we'd walk around the room, and we'd network, and we would be stand up on stages, and I used to introduce my mom when I was about 10 years old to a room full of like hundreds of people. And it was very much our normal. So I think I guess what you grew up with your parents doing is interesting.
And then you went against that in a way to try to just have a normal life, but you got dragged back into that entrepreneurial journey.
To an extent. I mean, I think Accenture is actually a very, very forward-thinking business. I loved the fact that you worked on project work, so you were constantly changing. I think it's really important to always have that awareness of your own personality and your own strengths and your own weaknesses. And I've always known that I'm someone that gets bored easily. So I knew that I needed to have a job where, I could move things around. I was constantly meeting new people. So in the 2.5 years I was at Accenture, I had 7 different projects, and they were in all different locations with all different teams. And so I had that constant change. And I think as far as, having a job goes, I think Accenture is almost quite an entrepreneurial experience, because and probably similar to your experience at EY, but
Absolutely.
You are your own person. You do have to have your own brand. You do get your own projects. You do network. It's almost like a self-employed, but you're not self-employed, because
and that your utilization is like important there. So
exactly. Your chargeability, which is basically the same as making sales when you run your own business. It's interesting. I think it's a really amazing thing to do, whether you stay there or whether you go. I think getting that it was integral to my kind of success as an early entrepreneur, because I've learned so much there.
I was talking to a guy earlier on one of these shows called Filippo, and he's 18, and he's started his own marketing agency. And I'm just thinking back to when I was 18 years old, and I just don't know I'm not sure whether I just hadn't thought about it, or I just didn't think it was possible. I'm not really sure why I chose to go down the corporate route, but I mean it's really brave, but it's almost like it wasn't even a choice for him. He just thought, I'll just start my own business. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, sorry, I think it's frozen a little bit, Hannah.
Exposure of what's you.
Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, it just
did it freeze?
Yeah.
Okay. I think in terms of younger people and what they can see. I think it all comes down to what you can see on social media, and you can learn everything now on Google and online courses, and you can follow whoever you want. So I think if I was 18 now, I would have probably gone down the entrepreneurial route, because I already had I already ran my own business, and I used to work with people to do their personal brands. I used to work with people that, that were in my parents' business. And I think it would have been more easy then to go down, probably start some sort of e-commerce business, because I was very skilled at eBay. I was selling on eBay and Amazon since I was 13, which was funny, because when I actually turned 18, all my accounts got blocked because they realized that I had been on there 5 years too young. So I'd built up all this like really good feedback because I had been doing it for so long. I had to restart all my accounts.
And they just blocked it for turning 18?
Yeah, they just, because I updated I can't remember what it was. I knew because I was 18, I could get access to some different features. So I uploaded my driver's license or something. And then I got everything blocked because they said you shouldn't have had these accounts. And I was like, yeah, but can't I just have it now? I'm 18. And they said, no, so I had to start all over again. And I'd made thousands of selling literally everything around the house, and anything I could find, I used to sell. So I think, had this world been, if I was 10 years different,
I think things have changed a lot, just even in the last 10 years. It's crazy. You don't realize it, and then you look back and you're like, I mean, it's just so quick. It's just like, I mean, I remember not having a phone. It's like,
I know. I think also I think there's also very much a different mindset of, you can do whatever you want to do. There's always people on GMTV and stuff of like kids that are like multimillionaires running like gaming businesses and stuff. I think you're just constantly exposed to like the art of the possible. I think that's kind of what the difference is. I think when you see what's possible, so when you see a young person, if I had been 18 and I saw other 18-year-olds who were building businesses and all of this stuff, I would have been like, oh, that's possible. But the entrepreneurs that I knew when I was 18 were in their 30s, their sort of 30s or 40s. So I think it was something like, oh, that's an older person's thing.
They'd gone through some corporate route first. Like that was the model that I had as well.
Some had. I mean, my family are very on both sides. Predominantly, we're 90. I'd say 90%. I've got a really big family. 90% of us are self-employed, running own businesses or contractor jobs or whatever. So I very much. No one in my family was corporate. Most of them did work for themselves, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc. But I think because I went to a traditional university, so a lot of them go into corporates, and I wanted to go into London. I wanted that life. I thought it looked really fun, and I loved Accenture. I was such a big Accenture fan. Everyone I met there seemed so cool. There were so many opportunities. The training was in Chicago. Like there was so much cool stuff about it. So
I don't think I would have had like the opportunity to move to New York for like 18 months if I hadn't been working for EY. So I mean, just for that one reason, it was worth like the thing. But it was like the people that you meet, the projects that you're on, it was like amazing experiences. But so what happened after Bali then? You were in Bali for a bit, and then
so I lived in Bali for just over a year. I went over there for like a lot of different reasons. I was healing from some like personal trauma that I'd been through, and I was just a little bit lost. So I went over there just to kind of take a check of life, and there was lots of great things that happened, but there were some quite challenging things. And I think after about a year, I think I'd sort of sorted all that out in my head. I was very clear about, I knew that I didn't want to have this London life, going on the tube, going into an office thing, but I didn't know what I wanted instead of that. But after a year of being there, I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted to do in England. Like I love England. Like I know everyone complains about the weather and stuff, but I love the UK. Like I love my friends and family. I love the English humor. I love the countryside. I love our food. Like we have so many options in our supermarkets that you don't realize until you go to other countries how much more limited you are. There's so many things about being in the UK that I love. So I just, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I kind of had found, and I thought, I'm a little bit homesick. My friends were starting to get engaged. My cousin had a baby, and I thought I want to bring my Bali life to England, which is what I did. I mean, obviously I couldn't bring the sun, but the things like, in Bali, there's a lot of kind of emphasis on self-care and rest and going to spas and yoga and meditation. All of those things, I brought back with me. I'm a member of a spa, so I do have that that rest time, and I still work for myself, and I still, you know, and surround myself with kind of inspiring people. So I sort of thought I want to bring that here. Because I didn't want to, you know, there are people in Bali that I met who, you know, they didn't like where they were from, or they didn't want to be around their friends and family. But for me, it was like, it got to a point where I was like, you know, as amazing as being in Bali is, it's not, if you're not with the people that you, and if you're not with the people that you love, it just doesn't feel like I will definitely, you know, it's definitely like my second home, and I will go back there. I actually planned to go in April, but obviously things changed in the world. But yeah, I wanted to do it here. And I also felt like it would be more of a challenge to do it here in a good way, because the mindset in the UK around the entrepreneurial space, around the personal branding space of what I do is a little bit different to the States, or the kind of the people that I was with in Bali. And I sort of thought, do you know what? I'd rather do it in England, because I think it's more of a challenge to help to
there's a bigger market.
There's a bigger market, but it's also,
you're an early adopter in a way, because people don't really kind of buy into that thing quite yet, but it's so important. And really, I think you're kind of onto something, focusing on that in the UK.
Yeah, I just wanted to be in the UK, because it was very clear, you know, everyone knows that there's this massive shift of everything moving online, and this massive shift towards entrepreneurialism and remote working, and companies needing to think in different ways as new technologies come in and stuff. And I wanted to be in the UK for that. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, and also like the personal stuff as well. I mean, I remember being in New York and thinking about doing this tech startup, and I was thinking, like I was trying to make the decision kind of similar to you when you were leaving Accenture or whatnot, trying to decide what was the next step. And I think, like, you know, I think I watched something that Jeff Bezos said, and it was like, you know, when he was starting Amazon, and it was along the lines of, you know, if you project forward to when you're 80 years old and then look back on your life, like, how do you minimize the number of regrets that you have? And and I could do that quite often, because then it helps you make the big choices. And like, one of the choices was, well, I want to do this startup. I don't care if it fails, really. Like, if it works, great. I think it could, but it will literally haunt me if I don't do it and don't give it a shot. So I thought, well, I might as well go for it. And the other part to that is like family and close friends, because I've been living away in London for 4 years, and then in New York for almost 2, and I'd hardly spent any time with my mum and dad. And I think you start to realize that, like, when you're 80 and you're looking back in your life, I don't think anyone's been, well, you know, there's different circumstances and things, but I don't think I'll be looking back in my life and going, regret going home for those 2 years and spending time with family.
I totally agree. It's interesting, because this kind of, people often ask this kind of, you know, looking forward, looking back, why did you decide to do it and stuff. Like, I've always just been somebody who so listens to their gut. Like, I don't plan decisions. Like, when I decided to move to Bali, I didn't like sit around making a pros and cons list. Like, I was with my best friends. I literally got off the plane. I smelt the smell of Bali, and I was like, wow, this has given me so many happy memories from when I was here. I saw one person sat in one coffee shop, and I was like, that was my decision made. I didn't spend any time thinking about it. And then started my first business. Again, I didn't plan it. I just thought, this is what feels right in my gut. And I think if you're connected to your intuition and your gut, then that's just what I trust. Like, I don't think that far in the future, because I think our world changes so fast that you can't really plan and predict. Like, in 5 years, based on the fact that they're saying that the next 10 years of technological development is going to be bigger than the last 30, it's very hard to plan and predict the way your business and life's going to go. So my kind of thing is, what does my gut say? And I'll do that next. That's actually what I listen to. I don't look at, obviously I have spreadsheets and forecasts and things like that from a business point of view. But when it comes to making decisions, I think, you know, the really successful entrepreneurs, they make decisions quickly. They don't fuss. They just make a decision and go. And when I was researching around, you know, what do successful people do, looking at presidents and things like that, you know, one of the really core success things is just to be able to make decisions fast. And I think that comes from trusting your gut and feeling like you've got, you know, like you're trusting your intuition around your decisions that you're making, and not overthinking them. I talk to so many people that are overthinking things and saying, you know, oh, I don't know whether to do this or whether to do this. And then I speak to them a year later and they're still thinking, I don't know whether to do this or whether to do this. And I think
just
if
make
you'd
a
just
decision,
done one, and at least you'd know that one was done.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I'm very keen to delve into what makes people decision makers and what makes people not decision makers, so that I can help my clients and the people that I talk to.
Yeah, it's probably also the fact that if they're not scared about they don't want to make a wrong decision. They can't accept that some of the decisions that, you know, people make are going to be wrong. Like you don't have all the information. You don't have, you know, what's that they always say, hindsight is 2020. You can't look at it after you've made the decision. You can only make the decision based on what you know today. So just go for it, make the decision, and accept that things are going to be fall, and that's a loss, but at least you made the decision and you're moving forward. And it's I
also think there's too much emphasis put on this, like this word failure. Like I understand that a lot of people are trying to inspire people by saying you'll fail, this, that. But I think even though using the word failure makes people, then it adds another layer of, oh, even if I know I've got to fail because everyone says you've got to fail, but actually failure can be very quick and not that painful. Do you know what I mean? Like I fail all the time, right? Yes. I've made bad business decisions. I've invested money I shouldn't. To me, it's like, it's not this massive thing where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to have to go and live in like a box and get a job. You know, it's not that big, because you'd never let it get to that big of a place. You wouldn't, because you wouldn't. So I think there's this disaster thinking around failure, when actually it's usually like, to really fail, you have to make a lot of really bad decisions over and over and over again. And
it's also failure's part. It's kind of like the testing thing, where if you're not constantly testing whether the thing that you're doing is creating value for other people and that they want it, then you're not. But the point of tests is that you fail because you do as many tests as possible till you find the thing that people want.
And I think, you know, back in the day when you started a business or you wanted to build a tech platform or whatever, like it was a massive investment and it was a whole big thing, right? It was a whole big drama. But now barriers of entry of starting a business are so low. You can use all no-code software to build your website.
Yeah, everything I used was open source. Yeah, so even though I needed to code, it was like, I just had access to it for free. So
yeah, like everything I've done, everything I've built has been built on using softwares, you know, SaaS softwares, you know, design software, WordPress, Squarespace, ClickFunnels, whatever it is. Like the barriers to entry is so low. Like you can get stuff up, you can get a business up in a couple of £100. So is it a failure if you lose a couple of £100? Like, I don't really know whether. I think that's what limits people. I think it seems like too much of a big deal, this whole failing thing, when I think actually it's about, it's not that big.
Yeah, it's also the hypothesize as well. It's like the talking about it. It's like I know a lot of people that do spend a long time thinking about things, and like and I've probably done it for quite a long time with doing this this podcast YouTube show and making content. I've kind of thought about it too much, and then the other day I was just like, I'm just going to do it. Like it's not even, and then some shows will be like, you know, they won't go right, and they won't, you know, it won't be the right energy. And then other shows will be great, and then people will watch it or they won't, and then it'll get views, and then that's it. And so
I think really matter. A lot of the fear of doing these things comes down more to what other people think. It's a fear of what other people think. I think we live in such a society where we feel that we're so much under a magnifying glass, because everyone knows, you know, we're so connected. You put stuff online, you feel that everyone's going to know if you do something wrong. Like, this is something that held me back for years, was, you know, what if I do this and it's wrong? But the other side of living in this busy, connected online world is that everyone is so busy that they don't have that much time to spend thinking about you.
Yeah, they don't.
So like people say to me, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm worried about what my like colleagues will think when they scroll past it when they see it. And I'm like, well, let's break down the reality. You know, they'll be scrolling past on LinkedIn. If they're scrolling on LinkedIn anyway, because they're probably on a different platform, they'll see it, they'll think about it for a few seconds, and then they will be reminded of that thing they forgot to do, or what they should be doing with their life, or oh god, I forgot to drop that off, or I'm sad that I'm having an argument with that person. Do you know what I mean? There's so many other thoughts in our heads, so we're being held back by something which doesn't really exist. Like I got so held back by what people think, and then I hang out with those people and they don't even really know what I do. You know, like when I wrote my book and stuff, and it's not because, you know, I'm saying my friends are bad or they don't care. I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of information going, and there's a lot of information going on the internet. So, you know, I documented the process of writing my book. For example, I put it on my Instagram story. I used to do like little updates, and then when my book came out and I thought, oh, it's a whole big thing, blah, blah, blah. But I saw friends and they'd go, I'd mention it and they'd go, oh my God, Hannah, I didn't know you'd written a book. And it was just like, I was so shocked. I was like, you know, I wasn't annoyed at them. I was like, you know, that's fine, because there's so much information and you're not my target audience. So it's not like I'm going to be directly targeting you. But, you know, I put so much concern into all this stuff, and I've got quite a relatively big presence in terms of I'm posting regularly and stuff, and still people aren't seeing my stuff. So I think it really comes down to like, yes, people might think stuff, but they'll think it for a second and then they'll move on. And most people are just so impressed by courage and bravery, no matter what you're doing, you know, whether it's running a marathon or moving to another country or getting a new job or speaking on a stage or building a business, whatever it is, most people, good people, are just inspired by bravery. And the people that don't like it, it's because it's a mirror to themselves and they're thinking.
Absolutely. Anyone that says negative comments, it's always a reflection of what's happening internally with them. Like, and anyone that saying something negative to your face as well, like quite often I'll tell a story about you know, something like asking for advice from a friend or whatever, and you always need to think about when you're listening to advice that you're getting, that it's being put through a filter of another person's own insecurities. So it's like, okay, cool, they wouldn't do that because they're, you know, maybe afraid or insecure in certain ways. And it's not like they're not doubting me that I can put out that book or whatever.
I think it's nice because I have a cousin, he's very successful, and I spoke to him recently to ask him for some advice, and he's a very successful entrepreneur. And he said to me, you know, I don't really want to give you necessarily advice. I can tell you what my experience was and how I think about this topic, but I'm not going to tell you what to do because, you know, I don't know your journey and stuff. So I think it's, when you're giving advice, it's always nice to say, you know, in my experience or in my opinion or whatever, but I'm not saying that this is exactly what it is. And going back to that comment around what people say, I saw this quote saying, you know, you'll never be insulted by somebody who is in front of you. It's only those who are behind. And I think it's so interesting because, you know, if you think about people that are putting themselves out there, they're trying, they're getting knocked down, they're getting back up and stuff. Those who are in front know what that's like. So all they do is celebrate. So, you know, the most successful people I know are also the ones that are the kindest, and the ones who are nasty are the ones that, not that there are many who are nasty. Like I have to say, there are a few silly comments that I get on videos every now and then, but you just delete them and move on. Those tend to be people that are so far behind, and it becomes so obvious. So
just on that, on the deleting the comments, I'm kind of like, just respond once and just shower them with love. Like, you know, are you having a bad day? Like, I don't know, it depends. I mean, if it's misogynistic or like in any way. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. Like, I think, you know, one bad apple can rot an entire bunch. So I think if people are being negative on things, I think you should just take it down. I just think it's unnecessary. If it's somebody starting a debate, that's different, because then you can sort of get into it. But I think if it tends to be, from my experience, the comments don't tend to be like a little bit mean or a little bit constructive. They tend to just be absolutely horrendous by somebody who I don't know, who's come across me. Like, I shared a video when was it? It would have been last year, where I actually talked through the story of when I was raped and how I want to help more people that have been raped. And I got a comment on it from someone saying that I needed to get a boob job. And like, it was so ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. Like, it was so ridiculous because it was like a video about something sensitive and stuff. And it was like he he was, you know, he was just replying saying, I think you need to get a boob job. Your boobs are too small. And I just read it and I was like, that in itself just sums up how ridiculous that fear is, because no matter how much I planned and feared what was going to happen from people commenting on that video, that one would not have come into my head. Like, no matter how long I had spent planning and putting off writing the video because I was so scared of what people were going to say, I would not have thought that the main comment was going to be that I need a boob job.
He hasn't engaged in any of the point of the video whatsoever. It's just,
and that's the thing, like, we spend so much time worrying about things that may or may not happen. And actually, you know, at the beginning of this year, I think back to the things I was worrying about and putting pressure on myself. I could never have imagined I was going to spend 3 months of the year in lockdown going through the biggest global like crisis that's happened like basically ever. So, you know, you couldn't have, so you may as well not worry at all, you know, not let fear hold you back at all, because the things that happen you don't think are going to happen, and the things you can't plan.
And you can't plan. And kind of just on the point about like the making decisions about when you're 18, looking back and all that stuff, it is kind of like a formulaic way of thinking about things. But you do know that, you know, loved ones are going to go, like, you know, not be here in, you know, a certain amount of time. So like there are certain things that you can be like, I know that I have the opportunity today to make the most of the things that are like important to me. So I should trying to, like, you know, make the most of that now and try and not regret it later. But like in most things you can't really plan for anything. You can kind of like do something that's going to be inherently valuable, like for the long term, regardless of whether there are cycles. So like, and you might have a bad year, but generally everyone's going to like restaurants, like, or something, I don't know, like, or people are always going to want to better themselves, like with what, with your book. So, and people can consume, like at the moment, like people don't have much money to spend, but they do have like attention. So that's another point about people making all of this content online and things. It's because people can still consume things and kind of learn and all of that type of thing. So I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy world we're in at the moment, to be fair. Has it been what how are you coping with it? How are the emotions internally? How's that affecting business? I mean, how are you adjusting?
So I mean, I have to say, like, when it first started, obviously, you know, it was very, very scary. And I'm not somebody, I don't actually watch the news normally. I just think, like, if there's anything important, my dad will tell me. And I don't want to be in that negative. Like, I read Tim Ferriss's book years ago, and he said, you know, go on a low information diet. And like, I'm very, very, I'm very careful of what I consume, just like I'm careful that I'm vegan, so I don't consume meat. I also don't want to consume bad information that's going to make me feel crap.
Bad karma.
So, so I don't normally watch the news, but obviously when all of this was coming in, I got very engrossed in it, because it's, well, first of all, I mean, you want to know what's going on, but also it was fascinating and scary and unbelievable. So I think at the beginning, I did get really bought into the fear, and I did panic about my business, because I had clients who did, you know, I think the whole world went into panic, and I did have clients that cancelled and stuff, and my revenues dropped probably by about 60% in about 3 days. So that was quite scary. And I have relatively high costs. You know, I live by myself. So I have to, you know, I have relatively high costs. I have costs in the business. I have people that work for me, things that I'd invested in and stuff. So the first few weeks, the first probably 2 weeks, the first week, it was very stressful, and I did go into panic mode. But then I think I'm somebody who's been in fair few like bad situations. So I think I'm fairly well trained of getting myself out of them. And I think I just stepped back, and I kind of thought, do you know what, if any business is going to do well, then a business that helps people get online is going to be one of them. And also the other thing I was struggling with was how I could help, because I think we all want to help, but I'm not an NHS worker. I can't, you know, I'm not in the army. Like I didn't know how to help. So I signed up to the volunteering app, but then I thought, what can I help? Well, maybe I could help a small group of people to get through this time and help them. So I pivoted my business in a way that I just kind of forgot about the loss of revenue, and just thought, I'm going to forget about the loss of revenue. I'm not going to try and make money. I'm just going to try and help people through what I can do. And I'm going to create new products that people can afford, that help people in this crisis. And actually, I've ended up pivoting my business to a business which I way prefer. It's actually like my dream business that I hope to get to in about 2 years. But I've done it now because I just did what I thought was really right. And actually that turns out that was the best thing.
And what is that? Yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah. So my business before it wasn't, I'm still doing the same thing. I still work with people to grow their personal brands. It's the delivery. I spent more time in my sort of higher end products. So like coaching, speaking events, workshops and things like that. So the higher priced stuff, which kind of limited who you can obviously work with, because there's only a certain amount of people are going to spend that much money, and built out and plus a lot of this was face-to-face, built out the online products, the lower end priced products, rammed them full of value, invested in I'm building a new like academy, Powerful Leaders Academy. So helping as many people as I can. So we're going to have like an online platform with loads of training with experts in it, doing things like that, spending more time, helping people with content in a remote way and things like that. So
you kind of need to, you were almost like probably taking maybe bigger face-to-face personalized contracts with people, but that's almost like you were, because that was the money that was going to pay today, it wasn't allowing you the time to focus on the scale that
and
you
that's
needed.
Very true. Absolutely.
So this is giving you almost that breathing space to be like, oh well, I can now scale the contribution that I can make using technology and other things.
And what's so funny is that all of that stuff was completely fear-based, because actually I was thinking, I can't focus on building all of this stuff because I've got to keep selling this stuff, when actually all that happened was I just said, okay, well, I can't sell this stuff. If I don't make any money, well, the landlord can't throw me out my house because that's been law now. So I've got no option. I have to focus on building this stuff. And what's ended up happening is the business revenues actually haven't changed. I can still pay my rent. I still pay for everything because I did just manage to switch it over, because I just, I kind of, sometimes when things get so bad, you stop fearing them. Like the fear of stuff is worse than the reality. People always say, like, when I had a boyfriend and we weren't having a very good relationship when I was younger, and I was so scared of breaking up with him. And then when we broke up, I was like, oh my God, I spent like a year so scared we were going to break up. And actually it's not that bad. So I think that was what it was. I spent a year wanting to build this business, but I built this one out of fear. And then I switched it over in a few weeks. And now I just have and all the clients that I stopped working with or initially panicked, loads of them came back because they thought, why did I panic and cancel getting my website done or clarifying what my niche is going to be, when actually that's exactly the stuff that's going to get me out of this problem.
What I need to do just now.
I think I just completely released it all and just released all the fear and then just got on with it. And I think
because you imagine what would happen if it just completely collapsed. It's like you almost need to get yourself to a place where it's like complete like destruction to be like to just accept it. And then it's almost like a state of zen.
That's exactly it. It was complete zen. I was like, okay, because I love my house. I love living here. I love everything. I love my life and everything. But I sort of went through the motions of, of losing it all. Imagining putting all my I bought this.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I bought this fancy sofa at Christmas.
Lovely.
And I was like, thanks. And I was like, I went through the whole thing of putting it in a storage unit and moving in with my parents or moving, I went through that whole going to live in some I actually imagined, I don't know why, but getting living this tiny little caravan that would be really cheap. I just think, what's the cheapest way you can live? Or going to be a lodger at someone's house or something. So I went through all of this and I was like, do you know what? I'd still have all my friends and family. I still have my 2 legs I can walk around, which makes me luckier than loads of people.
Absolutely.
So I just thought, and I went through that. And then because I went through that acceptance, it was easier to come out of it. And then because you can't really create, you can't be positive if you're in a fear-based mode. You have to create through positivity, through faith.
There's also that's that Marcus Aurelius quote, which is you can't change the situation, but you can change your interpretation of it. That's the human brain sees the obstacle and then converts the obstacle into the means by which they can get to where they want to get. The obstacle is the way. That's a book by God, I can't
Yeah,
remember the author.
absolutely. And I do believe, like, although it's an annoying thing to hear when you're in a low moment, you know, that the obstacle, you know, I was trying to motivate myself by stuff like that, but I was just irritated because you know, you just feel a little bit, you know, sorry for yourself. We all have moments where we feel that, you know. I would never say, it's not something I feel often. I feel like I spend most of my time feeling hugely grateful for life, even though things have gone wrong. But you have these moments where you feel a bit sorry for yourself, and it's up to you how long you let that last. And I think I did feel a bit sorry for myself for a week, and then
I think a lot
I
of that's driven
thought,
by expectations that haven't been met. Like you had expectations, they haven't. Then the world, and that's projecting forward, and it's not living in the present. And it's like if you live too far in the present, then you think things are going to turn out the way that you want them to.
Yeah. I think I talked to my brother about this last week. I think you need to have a vision that is way in the future, as in without a date attached to it, just a vision of your life. And actually, when you watch, I don't know if you've watched the Think and Grow Rich film, but it's they talk about this in the film, and like have a vision of your life, almost like a movie version of your life, which is like the best you can imagine. So like, let's say you want to be an actor, have the vision of getting an Oscar. You know, if you want to be a really successful entrepreneur, have the vision of being invited to speak at, I don't know, a Forbes conference or whatever it is that you know you want to do, or making some list. You know, people have lists they want to make or whatever. Have that massive vision that drives you, and believe that you can see that is a potential reality because you can imagine it. And then just wake up every day and think, what can I do today? And that's what I do. So like, I don't even think about Monday. I'm thinking about today. The vision is there, whenever that is, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, I know that I'll get there. I do have that belief and that faith. And then I just wake up each day and I go, what can I do my best today? So I go to sleep tonight and I know that I did the best I can today.
And what is the long term? What is the vision? Like, what do you see when you project forward that far out? Like,
yeah, it's a good question. Like? Yeah, I mean, it's often different because it depends like where I'm at in my head. So sometimes it will be thinking about, I don't know, like a relationship I might be in or whatever. But in terms of business, I think it often, the delivery of what it looks like often changes, but in terms of how I feel, it's more how I feel.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. So sometimes the vision might be thinking around speaking on a stage with some of the entrepreneurs that I really, really admire. Or it could be thinking about, I don't know, the size of the business, or imagining a room full of people at an event that I have like helped. So
have you ever read the book The Alchemist? Sorry to interrupt. Have you ever read the book The Alchemist?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
And it's like, well, hopefully I don't give this away for anyone that hasn't watched it and watches this, but basically it's very much like what you're saying, which is he goes on a journey to find his treasure and finds out the treasure was where he started.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of similar to what you're saying, which is like, a lot of it isn't the speaking on the stage. It's not this, it's not that. It's how you feel. But like, you could feel like that today.
I know.
Like, that's the interesting thing.
And that's what I then remind myself that, okay, that's the massive vision, but then I can have that today. And that comes down to the today thing of, you know, today, okay, so maybe that is 10 times but today I am there. I think for me, I'm massively ambitious. I always have been. I'm massively driven by helping people. Again, I always have been. So for me, I don't have numbers. I don't have like, I want to be a millionaire and like, obviously
you just want to touch people's lives and make them better.
Yeah. And I think I would just like to know that I've done there's some positive thing that I've done in the world. So I think that's what it is for me. But I think, if you're doing, I would say I'm doing that now with the clients that I'm working with and stuff. So I think it's seeing where you want to go, but then living what that's like now.
I think it's also like it's like how you feel is one thing, but it's like how you can make other people feel is like another part to that. And if you can almost get like a massive sense of gratification if in 10, 20 years from now you've made hundreds of thousands of people's lives better because they've improved their online profile, which has allowed them to get jobs or things like that. It's just come from your mind, and you've managed to have this
Yeah, I think it's important to always dig into the metric. You know, when you set yourself a metric, when people say like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, oh, I want to have 1 million followers, or whatever it is, the metric that people put as success is like digging into like, why, you know, why is that the metric? Like, so, okay, so you want to, you want to make $1 million, whatever, £1 million. You know, what is that enabling? Is it enabling more freedom? Is it enabling, what is it enabling? So for me, when I like dug into like, you know, because I went through a period of getting caught up in this, I want to make 1 million before I'm 30. You just get caught up in these things sometimes. And then my other cousin said to me, you know, what is the output of that? What is it that you want to be able to have with that? And I was like, you know, I want to have full autonomy of my time. I want to be able to spend time with my friends and family whenever I want. And then as I was saying it out loud, I was like, actually, I basically want what I do have now, just like to know that it's safe. Do you know what I mean? As in, I have it all now, but maybe I doubt that it's safe. Whether I doubt that it's, so I'm thinking if I put money around it, it makes it more secure.
But it's never safe.
But then if you have 1 million, like the people with the most money almost have the most, they've got more to lose, right? So whether you put money or whatever the metric is, I think it's digging into like, what is that thing? What is behind that? Because you can probably start living that now.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't know, it's like can you get yourself to a place where you feel like totally comfortable with yourself to the point that you want to give that as like something for other people? Like I always think it's like internal versus external. It's like, are my goals focused on me and what I can get for myself, or are my goals on what I can do for other people? And then hopefully as a result of creating all of that huge amount of value, then you can capture some of that value that you create and people would willingly give it to you. But if you just focus internally on, you know, how can I, you know, become a millionaire, that type of mentality isn't, I don't know, it doesn't make.
Mine is, I think my vision is really about knowing that I achieved my like potential and that nothing held me back from that. So I think if you're capped at a certain thing because of ability or because of whatever, like eventually I'm going to get capped somewhere because of my ability, because of what I can or can't do. But as long as I'm capped at ability, I'm not capped at hard work or because I got too scared or anything like that. As long as when I get there, whether, you know, when I get to 80, I can look back on my life and I can go,
I gave everything.
I did everything. I gave it everything. Like that is what I could do. I couldn't have done more than that. Rather than looking back and going, I could have done more. I want to know that I did it all. Do you know what I mean? I did all that I could do. And I don't know what that is. I just want to know that I've done it all I could do. So when I look back on my life now and I think, could I have done things better? You know, did I make that mistake? Did I work hard enough at that? And I think I gave it my all that I had then. I've always made that decision that I'm not going to let fear or laziness or anything like that be what holds me back. If it's ability and I'm just not smart enough, I'm just not good enough, that's okay.
You've dealt the cards you're dealt, aren't you? So.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've got the brain I've got, like as much as I can learn and keep learning, like maybe I will just never, you know, I'm never going to be Jeff Bezos, for example. But as long as it's capped by ability, not by anything else, not by fear, not by anything like that. Because I think the only regrets I have are when I've let fear rule me, or I've changed myself or my beliefs for the people that I'm with, you know, like
compromised.
I've compromised because of a fear-based thing. And those are the only regrets I have of when I made decisions from fear rather than from bravery and courage and truth. And that's what drives me every day, is knowing that was I the most courageous I could have been today.
Yeah. And the fear is usually coming from a place of worrying about what other people are going to judge you, or that you know it's not going to be work out how you expect it to. And it's almost like you know, if you can trust that other people are going to want to believe in the courage and bravery that you put out, if you can have that faith that other people are gonna gravitate towards you,
I think you
and it
really
helps you make decisions in a kind of from a love perspective.
Absolutely.
Like if you're just looking at like how can I like love life to the absolute most, and trust that other people aren't going to try and drag me down, and not let one stupid comment about whether you need a good job or not tear you down, like that type of thing.
I think you have to stay in your own lane. Like I think you have to when I say that, I don't mean not caring for others and helping others, but I think you have to have faith in your ability, your beliefs. You're always knowing you're coming from a place of integrity, and then you have to stay in your own lane. You can learn from other people, but you can't compare. You can have your beliefs questioned in a debate or in a conversation, but you come back to, what do I truly think? What I respect that person.
Yeah,
And I'm glad I know that, but
yeah.
I'm staying in my own lane. Like, I know what I believe. I know what I'm about. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. I'm in my lane.
Yeah.
I'm happy to step out of that and see other parts of the world and experience other thoughts and other ways of thinking and learn something or whatever, but not compare. That lane is that's all you have control of, your own decisions, your own actions.
You actually reminded me of that. You reminded me of this thing where it's like a structure. You like kind of go, okay, if somebody gives me negative feedback, like, number one question is, do they have my best intentions at heart, or are they caring about like themselves? Are they coming from a bad place? And then once you've made that decision, if you do know that somebody's coming from a good perspective, then you can listen to the advice that they give you, but you have to then listen to it, but then go and look in the mirror, and then make a choice for yourself about whether that's right for you or not.
Yeah, and I think most comments are not about you at all.
Absolutely.
So like, when I read feedback, somebody saying, I don't know, I didn't like the way you did this, or could you have done it this way? And I think, like, some people say I talk too fast, right, when I'm teaching. I think,
you think
is it
slow?
that I talk too fast, or is it that actually you're too slow? Because the world is fast,
and I'm not right for you.
Very fast.
Also, that just means I'm not right. You're not right for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of people out there that are the right one for you. It's like, it's okay if not everybody is gonna like your style. It's okay.
Yeah, like, exactly. And my one of my absolute favorite entrepreneurs is Russell Brunson, who's the founder of ClickFunnels in the States. I literally like adore him. Like, I just like dream of meeting him. He's like my, I don't know,
digital
person.
guru.
I just love the way that he is. I love the way that he approaches entrepreneurialism and stuff. And he speaks really, really fast, really, really fast. Yeah. And people moan about it and say, he speaks too fast, I can't keep up. And other people love it. I love it because I think fast, I speak fast. So I'm like, you can't ask people to adapt. When people are asking me to adapt, if it's something I think is fair, like sometimes I can be a bit too direct, and I can be rude if I get frustrated, I think. So sometimes I think, actually, fair, I should be less direct. Yeah. And I could have softened the edges of that. But if it's something which is just about is who I am, I just think
you can't change it. You've just got to be yourself.
That and exactly. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Any minute that you spend trying to, and then there's this, like, is it like, do you can improve, you can like
absolutely, yeah.
But you can't change, like, and you can try to, like, add things to your toolkit or your set of like techniques or whatever that you use, but at the end of the day, like, core things about you can't just completely change them because other people because like the time that you're spending trying to pretend to be something you're not is just wasted
and
energy.
The most successful people who have the biggest impact on the world spend the most time just being their true selves. And they don't try to be someone they're not to fit in or to make other people happy. They just lean into as much as who they are. And of course you can take, like I said, if someone says you're a bit rude, then I think, oh God, okay, I won't do that again. But if somebody says that you're too, I spent so long growing up with people telling me that I was too much this or too much that, you're too noisy, you talk too much. I went to a girls' school, and people used to say that I was intimidating because I was confident. And I was thinking, so I used to always think, do I need to be less confident to fit your mold? When actually that was about you. Speak up. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't hang out with me. I can't change who I am fundamentally. But if you are someone with a big personality, you spend your whole life getting people comment on your personality because they think, oh, they've got a big personality. That must mean I can give them some comments about that. I'm not telling you, like, I think you're boring because you're so quiet. Do you know what I mean? So I think you just have to get to a point where you just go, right, well, this is me. This is what I'm about. And this is the best I can do to serve the world. I can't do any more than that.
Yeah. And like, I'm totally with you. I think you've just got to get to a place where you're comfortable enough with yourself to just be be cool with it. And then if people are telling you something you already know about yourself, then you're like, well, I know that. So
yeah, like when people tell me I talk fast, I'm like, I've heard. I've been doing this since I was 2 years old.
Yeah. Oh dear. Hey, listen, this has been awesome. I don't want to, obviously, we're going over time.
I know, we could probably talk all day.
Maybe we could do a part 2.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That'd be cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to talk to you, and nice also to be interviewed about or to have a chat about stuff other than just personal branding. Because I spend so much of my life talking about, you know, that side of things. So it was nice just to chat about more generally around thoughts and
to be honest,
life.
I think that's like why you're doing it is probably so much more important than like the what you're doing, because people are gonna like gravitate towards people who like you know they want to understand the underlying context for why people are doing whatever they're doing in life. So yeah, I think this would be valuable for people to hear a bit more about.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Bye.